Larry, the Warriors won. Can you believe it?
Warriors win. Warriors win. Wow. Unbelievable. How about that? That was the most unlikely wire-to-wire job I think I've ever seen in my life.
Well, let's break it down. I wish every game was against Minnesota. You can't have it all, though, but this was a good one. This was a needed win for the Warriors. Let's break it down. It's Larry Krueger. It's the Golden Days. Let's get into it, and hopefully we'll have fun.
That is it for us today, and we will leave you with a... I can't do it. No. We'll do it live. Fuck it. Do it live. And things suck. Woo!
Let's go. In a minute, I'ma need a sentimental man or woman to pump me up. Come on and break me off. Cause I get what I want and I like what I see. If you got
the Crew Show in the house. Golden Days in the house. The Warriors are winning for a change. Hey now. Welcome to the Krug Show. Welcome to Golden Days. Larry, who the hell is paying your bills? Who's sponsoring you, brother?
Well, no, I think I understood the question. Yes, we are brought to you by...
Who are your advertisers, Larry? Who gives you money each month so that you can read a copy? And
who is underwriting this effort? Thanks to Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out. They're in Emeryville. They're in Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week. Go say hi to Damon and Mary. Get some brisket. Tell them the Krug sent you. We're also brought to you by Mancini's Sleep World. Mancini's is a proud sponsor of the Krug Show. They offer a 120-night guarantee, range of brands and price points. Use the code KRUG10, and you'll get 10% off. That's KRUEG 10. And you'll get 10% off your mattress purchase, which could be a significant savings. Again, once again, that's KRUG10, KRUEG, to get 10% off at any of Mancini's locations or online at sleepworld.com. I'm also brought to you by Sharp Corner Sports Cards and Collectibles along the Monterey Peninsula, as well as Better, the official daily fantasy sponsor of the Krug Show, and BetUS also is a proud sponsor of the Krug Show. We've added some new sponsors, but we'll save those for another day.
Why? Give them love now. I don't care.
Well, no, it's just we'll save those for another day.
Fair enough.
We're not prepared with the reads, and we're not just going to throw them out there cavalierly. But we've got more sponsors on the way, and if you would like to sponsor the Krug Show, you can't because we're pretty much packed.
You're booked. You're full. Yeah, you're full.
Booked, but
tough shit.
But if anybody wants to sponsor our trip to spring training, because we are going to do a trip to spring training in the month of March, we are going to have a special sponsorship for the trip to spring training. And if anybody would like to sponsor, just get a hold of me and we'll figure it out.
I like that. And how can people get a hold of you one more time, Larry?
Well, you just, you can reach me in a lot of different ways. You can reach me in any of the live streams that I'm on, including this one, in the chat. Of course, you can always DM me on Twitter. You can reach me on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram.
Grindr, all of it. You name it. And,
exactly.
Can you do DMs on Grindr? I don't know. No. And Larry,
I don't think you'll find me on Grindr. I don't think you'll find me on
Grindr. Your program is blowing up for very good reason. Interesting. I actually have a sponsor as well that I was going to go with tonight, but I don't have the copy ready either. But I want to give love to Underdog. They're now a sponsor of Golden Days, and we'll learn more about that soon. But for tonight, Larry, you're going to hear some familiar names with some of the new sponsors of Golden Days since the last time we collaborated. First up is, I don't know if you're familiar with this one, but BetAnySports is a new sponsor. We've got a lot of sports books giving some love. Hey, look. Figure it out, man. That's who's funding a lot of these media operations. Sports gambling is fun. I like it. I can't wait for it to be legalized in California. But all you have to do for BetAnySports is just click on that QR code right there. That's all you got to do. Point your camera at that QR code. And if you do so, you will go to BetAnySports website. And by logging in and registering, you'll get a 30% extra cash bonus on the initial deposit. BetAnySports, more ways to bet, more ways to win. Today's episode also brought to you by Larry. I think you will be familiar with this one because of all your years at KNBR, and that's Dr. Rosanelli, the hair restoration specialist, now a sponsor of Golden Days and the title sponsor of a weekly Rick Barry show. Dr. Rosanelli, look, folks, especially gentlemen, if it's fallen out there, and that happens, it happens to the best of us, go check out Dr. Rosanelli. He's in San Francisco. He's got amazing reviews on Yelp, perfect 5.0 reviews on Google, and he's awesome. He's got a client list that includes Dwight Clark of the 49ers, rest in peace, but before he went, he had a head of hair that I did not know was treated by Dr. Rosanelli. Rick Barry, Joe Stark, the voice of the Niners. Visit rosanelli.com or call 415-931-9881 to schedule your free virtual or in-office personal consultation for your hair and facial care needs. So he helps out the men and the ladies. Again, one more time, 415-931-9881 or visit rosanelli.com. A beautiful head of hair awaits you. And, of course, BetOnline, who continues to be the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting in 2025. I mentioned this, Larry, this morning, and I got this information from BetOnline that the Warriors entering tonight's game had played 12 straight games on the road where they hit the under. And that ended tonight, by the way. Of course, I mentioned it this morning in the collab I was doing with Damon Bruce, and then the Warriors and the Timberwolves go over, thanks largely to Stephen Curry and Andrew Wiggins. We're going to talk about that right now. But BetOnline, the game starts here. Larry, your recap, your immediate reaction to the Golden State Warriors getting a desperate win. I mean, they needed this badly. 116-115. They almost blew it. It was a little messy at the end there, but they took care of business. Your reaction, sir, and always great to see you, brother.
I mean, it was a good win for Golden State. They kept the turnovers down to 13. Minnesota didn't turn it over, but I just think Minnesota looks bad to me. I don't want to nothing against the Warriors and their effort tonight, because Steph had 31. He looked good. Wiggins had a good night. He had 24. Schroeder is starting to blend a little bit better. I thought all the guys, Warriors only played 4 guys off the bench, but all 4 of them played a significant role. I thought Moody, had double figures. Peyton had 6 rebounds. I thought that was big. 18 for Buddy Hield. That when Buddy can get going, I mean, I know, Buddy's got some good nights and bad nights, but if, any night where he can get it going, where he can give you, somewhere between 18 and 25 points, you're going to have a great chance to win those games. And he's trying to figure out, because, I've watched Buddy Hield his whole career with Sacramento, and I watched a lot of the Kings, and it just like this guy's real problem is he's played on some bad teams, and he's had some bad shot selection at the end of some games, and they've lost those games, and bad vibes start to, go across the roster. But this guy's a pure shooter. And on this team, if he can just figure it out as far as shot selection and what's a good shot, as far as, and where in the shot clock a good shot is taken. I think, Kerr and the coaching staff have had to redefine for Buddy Hield to some degree what's a good shot. And so now, after all these games, he's starting to kind of figure it out. And I kind of like what I see. Any game where Buddy can go for 18 to 25, Golden State's got a great chance to win. He went for 18 and they won. So I think he is a lot of ways a key measuring stick for them, because they need his offense. They need his offense off the bench. It was great to see 15 boards for Trace Jackson Davis.
Yes.
I really like to see that. The Warriors won on the glass. Naz Reid beat him, but didn't beat him bad. I mean, I thought Naz Reid usually kills him.
Correct.
I'll say this though: I think this Minnesota team is poorly coached. Who's the head coach
Finch.
here?
Chris Finch.
Yeah, I don't like the way they played this game at all. And I'll say this: the one guy that really impressed me was Dante DiVincenzo. Dante DiVincenzo in the second half came alive and just kind of rescued this game. The T-Wolves were going down the tubes, and DiVincenzo stood up. He had 28. He had 6 rebounds. He had 9 assists. He looked awesome, and I thought he was the key guy for for Minnesota tonight to even make this the game that it was.
Yeah, the Warriors incredibly, just piggybacking off that 18-point performance for Buddy Hield, undefeated when he scores 18 or more in a game. But the one thing, Larry, you didn't mention, which I thought maybe was the whole catalyst of the Warriors getting going early. They had a hot start in this game. Stephen Curry hit his first 4 3-point attempts. But what I loved seeing was Guy Santos in the starting lineup. Guy Santos started at the power forward position. A change-up from the Raptors game where even Bob Fitzgerald, our old friend from our KNBR day, you're still there, but when we all were there together, Fitz even pointed that out at the beginning of the Raptors game, saying they look small out there, and that's because Andrew Wiggins is not a power forward. So Steve Kerr made a subtle yet I thought very important adjustment, starting Guy Santos, and the box score is not going to reveal his contributions tonight. Guy Santos brings energy. I saw someone in the chat mention he's a connector, at least offensively. I wholeheartedly agree. He doesn't make stupid mistakes out there. He played 21 minutes, 26 seconds tonight. And again, even though he only had 5 points, did have 7 rebounds, second on the team to Trayce Jackson-Davis 15 that you mentioned. But maybe most importantly, he did not turn the ball over once. And for a young player, I feel like that's one of Steve Kerr's biggest trepidations with the young kids is turnovers, mistakes. He doesn't do that. He's a smart kid. I loved what he brought out there. What did you think about Guy Santos, who made his first start of his young career tonight?
Well, I mean, he's only played 4 games where he's had 20 minutes or more, and the Warriors are 3-1 in those games.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. That's what I'm looking at in those. I think that's kind of a key thing because that's why he's valuable, because he contributes to winning. He doesn't dominate the ball. He knows how to play. He understands spacing. He's very advanced in some ways. And he's another guy who can score. So, and he's a little bit more. I'll say I liked the fight that he showed tonight against DiVincenzo. Just late in the game on that one ball where they were kind of both grabbing at it. I mean, he just whipped DiVincenzo around there. But Santos is intriguing. I don't like him starting, to be honest. I mean, but he is a 22-year-old wing with some talent, and it's nice to see him on the roster. And I think 2 years from now, he could be a significant player.
I mean, he's already. I mean, look, you just said when he's the Warriors are 3-1 this year when he plays 20+ minutes in a game.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, I'll take it now. And the Warriors are so shorthanded in the front court. Draymond Green missed another game. So their options are limited. Like you're not going to see Looney and Trayce Jackson-Davis out there together because the offense would completely come to a standstill. So Guy Santos of the 4, I love it. One player, and this is where I don't understand why the consistency is not there. And I don't just mean in terms of production. I mean in terms of the force, the energy that this guy brings. And I'm talking about Andrew Wiggins. He played 35 minutes, 24 seconds tonight. There was a stretch in this game. The third quarter really stuck out. The third quarter line for Andrew Wiggins tonight, in 9 minutes and 3 seconds, he scored 11 points in that quarter. Maybe most importantly, though, he was doing what only Jonathan Kuminga seemed to do up until tonight, which is get to the free throw line on a consistent basis. And again, every time a player gets to the free throw line, you're completely halting the other team's offense. You're halting transition buckets. You're forcing the other team to play a half-court style, and that makes life for your defense so much easier. And so Wiggins was doing that. Larry, what I don't understand, and his stats for tonight, 24 points, 5 rebounds, but I think the most important part, at least to me, was 10 of 12 from the free throw line. What are you seeing, man? And I don't know if you have an answer to this or not, but why do you think Wiggins cannot bring that energy on a night-by-night basis? If he did, I'd shut up about him. I never complain again. We don't see that, though. What are you seeing with Wiggins?
It's his strength is his weakness. I mean, his strength as a person is that he's easygoing and can blend and he doesn't walk into the room and offend, and he blended right away with the Warriors, and he's never had any, from what I've heard from the people around the team, he doesn't have a lot of issues with a lot of his teammates, and he's real easy to be around. Mm-hmm. But then that kind of easygoing, kind of guy is also kind of easy going on the floor. And he he's very passive at times, and he's
Yeah.
he's content to run up and down and let other people be the star. I wish he had a little bit more of what member Monte Ellis had, where Monte was like, "Hey man, I'm the guy, the big dog here." Now it didn't work well with Steph, but it's really that's what you like, especially with guys who go to the hole. I like if you're passive but you're a shooter, a pure shooter, it's not the same as a guy like Wiggins, who when he's at his best, he's a 6'8", long-armed, super athletic guy who can beat anybody, either with a first step quickness or with finesse moves to the front of the rim at will. And does he want to do it? And if you bang him around, he doesn't love the contact, so that will deter him. But that's his game. I mean, he's not a marksman. He should go to the tin, go to the front of the rim and try to flush everything. And when he's fired up and motivated, that's kind of what he does. But when he's not, he can just kind of run up and down like he's, sitting there at 24-hour fitness, getting a workout on the treadmill. Like he's just like there to get a sweat. It's like, dude, do you want to win? I mean, he just seems very, very easygoing, Andrew, to me.
And Dr. Sean Stanley in the chat saying Wiggins has to become a more consistent player, and that's what we're talking about right now. Wholeheartedly agree. He has a game like tonight where, again, he drops 24, was a difference maker, and then he'll follow this up, at least he has throughout the season in the last few years, with a game where you might see like 9 points from single-digit scoring, and he's absent. Like there's no fingerprints of Wiggins on the game afterwards, and it's just a shame. I wish I knew. I know the reasons you cited are very valid and they explain a lot, but I just wish he was able to kind of get that irrational confidence that Monte Ellis had as a dog out there, just thinking he's the best player on a routine basis. He's got the physical tools. He just needs that mentality to back it up. Who are we going to name as our player of the game tonight, Larry? Is it going to be Andrew Wiggins or Stephen Curry, who was unbelievable? But they both were. Like, who are you going with, Larry? I'll leave that up to you.
Well, I mean, you go. I mean, I would go with Steph. I mean,
let's go with Steph then.
Steph is playing still at a pretty high level. That's an arena that loves to see him. I mean, through the years, gigantic crowds have shown up at the Target Center, to go see Steph Curry. His jersey is everywhere in Minneapolis. He's enormously popular everywhere, but he's really popular in Minneapolis. And it was just great to see him, go off and have another spectacular night. It's funny, watching him do his thing now is even more amazing in some ways, because it's like a star that's been, that's got the top billing, and now everybody wants to come see him, and then yet he didn't disappoint. You know what I mean? And like that one shot at the end where, he hit the big three, he's running back down court, and you can see a fan standing there, looked like probably a T-Wolf fan standing there. And, he wants to be mad, but it's Steph Curry, and he knows he's witnessing greatness, and he's smiling, and he's just kind of shaking his head. He's smiling and shaking his head, and Steph is walking back down the floor. And it reminds me a little bit of like, Steve Young at the end, or Joe Montana at the end, when it's like everybody knew they were special, and yet they would do something that showed it. And that's what, Steph did tonight. He showed that, it's like a couple of those shots. I mean, the one that stood out to me was the one where Looney gets it under the rim, and he's going to get stuffed because he's got a guy in front of him and a guy behind him. And he has the presence of mind because he knows he's got Steph in the corner to dribble under the bucket and then get the ball to Steph. Steph shakes one guy, and then wide open in rhythm three. And I'm watching it with my son, Christopher, and we're both like, that's down. And it's like, sure enough, it was down. It was a beautiful play by Looney, but it was also, classic Steph in rhythm. He's just so special. It's just all about spacing at this point. I mean, he's got everything else down. It's just a matter of, can he create the space enough space to get a shot off. If he can, it's down.
And before we mention his stats as the player of the night, you brought up Steph and his effect on fans as he travels, his global appeal. What were your thoughts? And there was a clip from that Raptors game. It was before the game started. I don't know if you saw this. Bob Fitzgerald and Clint Azubuike in the broadcast called it out, of a kid at the Raptors game who came onto the court. He's wearing a Stephen Curry jersey, and the Raptors made him take it off. I don't know if it was like a Seinfeld moment where Elaine Bennis is wearing an Orioles cap, and she's forced to take it off because she's sitting in a Steinbrenner's owner seats, which it reminded me of that, except we're talking about a child. It felt like it was bullying. Like, did you see that? I was repulsed, man. I was offended. That was a very bad look by the Raptors. I don't know. Did you see that?
No. What was it? A kid just sitting courtside?
No, it was a kid who was brought onto the court for some sort of like contest. Like, I don't know what the contest was. They didn't show that. Like, I don't know if he was
and
was
they
shooting
wouldn't let
shots.
him wear his Steph Curry jersey while he competed.
They made him take it off, and they gave him like a Raptors T-shirt to put over it. It was embarrassing. I could not.
Stupid.
It is stupid. I could not believe that. Well, Sean McRae saying that was staged. Are you? I don't think that's the case. Yeah, I don't think that's the case. I thought that was.
If it was staged, then that's even a dumber idea. And that whoever staged it is really overthinking.
Yeah, I don't think it was, man. I don't know why Sean said that. It was just, anyways. I thought that was just repugnant. It was just wrong on so many levels.
Well, repugnant is a little strong, but yeah. It was an abomination.
Well, Larry, when you see the video, I think it'll add some emotional context to it because the kid looked bummed out. It wasn't like the kid was like, "Oh, okay, sure." He was like, "Why are you doing this to me?" And he like begrudgingly took the jersey off and then put the Raptors shirt. The whole thing was just it was wrong. It was wrong. I hated it. Yeah, Oprah saying just weirdos in Canada. Whatever went on there, man, it was not right. But tonight's player of the game.
Sometimes, there have been nights where I've been in Canada as somebody who worked in the Canadian Football League.
I lived there for 3 months.
Where I felt like this would have only happened in Canada. Like, for example, if I may, I was at the Rolling Stones Voodoo Lounge tour. Basically sitting in the front row, but as I said, sitting in the front row because nobody stood at all from the beginning of the concert to the end of the concert. It was 100%
what city in Canada was this
seated. It was 100% seated crowd for the Stones from beginning to end. They never once stood up. I could not believe it.
What city?
I was in Winnipeg, Manitoba.
Yeah, Winnipeg's a weird one.
And the owner, the big dog for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, gave us the tickets. And so I got a chance to go backstage and after the Stones and get a chance to go into the green room and meet, Mick and the boys. And it was an amazing freaking night. Unfortunately, it was the most passive, low energy. I couldn't believe it. It was almost like people were drugged or something. I was like, why is nobody standing up? How come nobody's fired up for the Stones? And I mean, Mick's running all over the stage. He's sweating. He's this and that.
That's
nothing.
Weird.
Nothing.
That's weird. Well,
great night, beautiful night, fantastic night, sweet people. They're very, very
just
calm.
off. There's just something a little weird. I mean, I have no negative feelings.
Something was a little off.
I think that's the best way to describe Canada. I have no negative feelings about Canada. Again, I lived there once for 3 months. Wasn't intentional. I was just road tripping all throughout British Columbia, and then suddenly I settled and found an apartment on Vancouver Island and surfed and chilled for 3 months. Even got a job as a radio host. It was a whole other story. Point is, it's just Canada's just off a little bit. That's the best way I think you described it perfectly. So Stephen Curry is our player of the game tonight. He's not just the BetAnySports player of the game. He's also the pig in a pickle player of the game. Folks, Larry, remind the folks again, Pig in a Pickle. They've got 2 locations. Every time you bring up the brisket, I'm starving. I'm like, my mouth is watering. tell folks about Pig in the Pickle, brother. Like, give them the love, the information.
We're turning this live stream into just quite the huckster event. But yes, check out Pig in a Pickle, Corte Madera, Emeryville. They're open 7 days a week in both spots. If you're up here in Northern California, it's the best barbecue you're going to find. They smoke the brisket for 14 hours. It's amazing. It drinks in all that flavor. It's absolutely fantastic. The barbecue chicken. My two favorites, if I have to say, they have a brisket chili that is so freaking good. It's unbelievable.
Oh, it's so cold lately. Like chili,
brisket chili, like pieces of brisket in the chili. It just the texture and the chili. It's spicy, but it's savory. It's so good, so good. And then in Corte Madera only, they have potato chips that they cook in beef fallow, and they put that same rub that they put on the barbecue chicken on the potato chips. It is the greatest potato chip I've ever had.
Ever? Well, okay. Well, that's
across the board, greatest chip. It is a barbecue. It's like a potato chip. That's the family with kind of a barbecue rub on it, but with like a smoky flavor, and then cooked in the beef fat. It's unbelievable.
Sign me up. I've already forgotten what we were talking about. Oh, yeah, tonight's player of the game. I'm just thinking about the food. Brought to you by Pig in a Pickle. Also brought to you by BetAnySports. Again, all you got to do is click that link right there to get a 30% welcome bonus, or just click the link in the description below the YouTube page or in the podcast page. Wherever you see it, there's a link there. Just click on that. And Stephen Curry is our player of the night. That first quarter alone, again, if you jumped on to the Warriors game just even 5 minutes late, you probably saw a score like that was like 19-5 or some ridiculous margin there. The Warriors led by 24 in the first quarter. They were kicking ass, and a huge reason for that was Stephen Curry. In the first quarter of this game, Steph was, again, a perfect 4 of 4 from beyond the arc, 12 points in that opening quarter, added 3 assists, finishes the night, 31 points, 7 of 12 from beyond the arc, a perfect 4 of 4 from the free throw line, added 8 assists in this game, a steal as well, only committed 1 turnover. That highlight alone really sticks out. He almost didn't get the player of the game honors, Larry, because he only got 1 rebound, but we'll let that slide. Stephen Curry, your player of the game. Bravo, sir. Buddy Hield, man. That guy drives me insane. I know he had a good game tonight. I get it. But and as we pointed out there at the beginning of the show, 18 points. He shot 50% from deep. The Warriors shot 50% from deep total. I think you mentioned that as well. But Larry and Steve Kerr, following the Raptors game, said he's going to trust Buddy no matter what. What do you make of that? Because he seems to trust veterans for the most part, and his distrust lies with youngsters, unless it's Brandon Pajemski. Then it's like, okay, I don't make any sense of it. Would you trust Buddy Hield the way Steve Kerr trusts him? Do you think this is a Stephen Curry thing that's being projected through Steve Kerr? What are your thoughts on this Buddy Hield experiment that worked tonight, but he's not consistent regularly? Your thoughts?
Well, I mean, you got to go with the best you got. I mean, if you got somebody better, play him. But if you don't, play Buddy, and you don't, so play Buddy. I mean, it's as simple as that. I mean, Buddy can go for 40 and has in an NBA game. Show me somebody else on this team outside of Steph that can go for 40. Nobody goes for 40.
Yeah, that's fair.
So
I mean, yeah, that's fair.
Nobody else can score like Buddy. I mean, outside of Steph. So no, I mean, Kerr ought to pump up Buddy Hield with all kinds of confidence and tell him that he's just the cat's meow, and tell him to hoist and tell him how great he is, and just hope that he doesn't have nights like tonight where he was 3 of 13 and 2 of 10 from 3 and just live with the results. I'm looking at the Toronto game, actually. I'm looking at the Toronto game. He had a
much better night.
He had a much better night. He had a bad night tonight. He had a good night tonight. He had a bad night in the Toronto game. I'm looking at the 104-101 Toronto win over Golden State. Yeah, Yeah. Anyway, but no,
Larry, I haven't heard your thoughts on this yet, and if you've mentioned this before in the Krug show, this will be new for the Golden Days audience. Stephen Curry's comments the other night. I talked about this morning with Damon Bruce a little bit about the fact that Ramona Shelburne's reporting on it, and of all the reporters out there who cover the Warriors, she, as wild as this may sound, has been more on it than anyone else. Like what she reports in terms of what's going on behind the scenes tells me she's connected, she knows people, and what she said about that Stephen Curry attribution pertaining to the fact that he'd rather the team not mortgage the future to improve the present. Ramona Shelburne's theory, which I agree with wholeheartedly, is that Steph is saying these things publicly as a means of adding leverage for the Warriors in potential trade negotiations, meaning it's a message to other teams basically saying, we're not going to let you fleece us. We're not going to let you try and treat us like we're a desperate team here who's going to give up whatever you ask for to get, like a Nikola Vucevic, for example, that we'd rather stand pat than let you try and rip us off. What was your interpretation and your reaction to hearing Stephen Curry and then Steve Kerr follow that up saying basically the same thing, that they don't want to hurt this team in the future and that's why they're not making moves? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, I think it's smart on all fronts. I mean, one, Steph, I think there's a lot of that going on where that teams are like, yeah, they won't, we want this guy and that guy. Well, let's be honest. Everybody wants Kuminga. We want Kuminga. Oh, they don't think they're going to give us Kuminga? Great. You go back and tell Steph Curry you're going to piss away the remaining years of his Hall of Fame career. Idiots. Hang up the phone. That's what they're saying. That's what the other teams are saying. And so Steph's smart. Steph knows that. So he's like, hey, you know what? I'm going to take that away. I'm going to come out and say I don't think it's the right thing to drive the franchise off the cliff. But deep down, I also feel like it's not just posturing for a trade. I think Steph Curry understands that, there's the perception of the fans, everything could change. It's a very subtle situation, but if it's made it looks like LeBron, as people have pointed out before, doesn't care if the Lakers empty the clip as far as every asset they've ever had, ever will have, to help him win a ring. But Steph doesn't want to see the Warriors in some post-Steph purgatory nightmare situation where Joe's hemorrhaging and nobody's coming to see the franchise after Steph because Steph, made them trade for 34-year-old Jimmy Butler and give away 22-year-old Jonathan Kuminga. So I don't think Steph wants that on his hands. Yeah. And he sees what Kuminga can be, and he sees where they're at, and he knows that if they get a Jimmy Butler, it's going to be like, all right, Steph, there you go. Now go win a title. And he's not ready to do that. And he knows the team's not ready to do that, and he doesn't want to go through that. So he's being, I think, smart. He's being, it's like, if you don't think a deal can be made that can help you win, then why would you want that all on you? Mm-hmm. So what? So you can fail? Do you need to have some high-profile failure at the end of your career? Is that what you need? And it's like you're going to make what you and Draymond are going to make the Warriors get rid of Kuminga? I mean, that makes no sense. And yet tons of people that wanted to push for this Warriors need to get Steph a running mate type situation, we're like, yeah, sacrifice Kuminga. And the whole argument is that, oh, yeah, but, when Kuminga gets good, Steph will be retired by that point. Well, okay, so what? I mean, that's just the way it is. It's like, sometimes you're the rookie on the team. Sometimes you're the veteran on the team. The Warriors still have to run their team and their franchise. They can't just – and I'll tell you, I hate I watched ESPN today, and I hate this NBA suck-up media. I can't stand the NBA media. The NBA media is such suck-ups to the players. It's like
and coaches, yeah.
This panel of fools on ESPN had decided that it was like the Warriors owe it to Steph. He's like, to do exactly that, to maximize his final. They don't owe him anything. They've been paying him handsomely. They don't. That's the wrong way to look at it. They don't owe him anything. It's not all about the star. The whims of the star mean everything. but doesn't, in other sports, it's the betterment of the team, but not in this league where it's like if the star is not satisfied, then everybody in the media, sucks up to the star, and it's nauseating. I mean, it really is. I'm watching Wendy and these gripes. Two, Wendy and I forget the other two young ladies there, but it was bad. I mean, it was like, you got to be kidding me. You're gonna sit there and the shame on the Warriors for what? Because they didn't win a title and they didn't contend for a title in every year of Steph's career. I mean, it's not your birthright, man. It's pro sports. You don't just get to snap your fingers and make yourself a title contender forever. And if you're, it's, come on.
Well, what do we hear from
Jordan played for the Wizards.
And again, people have heard my gripes plenty when it comes to the media landscape, the paradigm that is the coverage of the NBA. So I no disagreement with you there on that. The only thing I'll maybe push back a little bit on is the fact that Stephen Curry is so talented that I think from a roster construction perspective, you'd be doing a disservice to not try and surround him with the best possible players, because when you do, you win championships. So I could understand the logic of, look, you've got a generational talent here, one of the greatest to ever do it. If you're not trying to win with him, you might be blowing it to a certain extent, because why are you not trying to maximize this window while you have him? But at the same time, I do understand what you're saying, which is that, he's just a person. I mean, he's just a human being.
Well, no, it's not that he's just a person. It's just that there's going to be a game, in future years. And if you get rid of your 22-year-old assets for 34-year-old Jimmy Butler, I mean, I think the Warriors could probably get Jimmy Butler without trading Jonathan Kuminga at this point. And they probably if they decide they want to go down this road. But I think Steph is looking at that going, that's just going to be a gigantic headache, and it's going to be failure ridden. I mean, do you want to see that? I mean, if you want to see that, you could probably move Wiggins and Looney and Peyton and some of these guys, and
Schroeder.
Put together enough money to throw at the Heat. The Heat, from what I've heard and what I've read, Jimmy Butler has made himself just an island unto himself. He wants separate flights, separate accommodations. He doesn't want to be around the team. I mean, he is a freaking nightmare. If anybody gives the Miami Heat even, equal value for Jimmy Butler, they're idiots, because Jimmy Butler's a massive headache for the Heat, and he's going to be a massive headache for whatever team trades for him and tells him the same thing the Heat are telling him, which is no to a long-term max deal. So, I mean, it's not.
Look, I don't think either of us are sitting here advocating. Yeah, I don't think either of us are sitting here advocating for Jimmy Butler. My stance personally,
a lot of people have, though. And LeBron.
I know. And I'm definitely not, empathizing with them. What I've been saying for weeks and months and so forth is this is a buyer's market. This is a rare opportunity where you have teams who just want to get rid of assets to get even a second round pick. And I don't think pretending that GP2, Kevon Looney, Dennis Schroeder are untouchable players. I think that's absurd. I think it's even absurd to think that Andrew Wiggins is untouchable. There are opportunities there to get better without giving up some of your best assets. You can get better without giving up Podziemski, Kuminga, Moody, whatever these young players are that people are talking about. You can get rid of expiring contracts and second-round picks and improve as a team. The price is not that high, man, and that's where I do hope the Warriors do something. I also think, again, the Warriors have an owner in Joe Lacob, who a year ago at this time. And speaking of a year ago, by the way, today's the anniversary of the Niners beating the Cowboys at Candlestick in the NFC Championship. Today is that anniversary. So one of the greatest moments in sports history, in my humble opinion, as a Niners fan. With that said, though, today, around this time a year ago, Joe Lacob tried to trade for LeBron James. The dude wants to win. He's not going to be happy being complacent. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think Joe Lacob's going to be cool with just having a Barry Bonds stretch of a career at the end, a Kobe Bryant type stretch at the end? I don't think Joe Lacob's going to be rolling like that. What are your thoughts?
I mean, what are the choices? Does he have choices?
I just said it. Second round picks, Looney, GP2, Schroeder, expiring deals. You can give these assets up to get some improvement. I mean, you don't have to like swing for the fences to make a trade and get better. Right?
What I would do is I would keep trying to build, but go build with younger players. Don't try to get guys to win titles right now. Just try to keep building. Just keep building, keep making moves. Every time there's a draft, you're competing against the other teams in the league. Every time there's a trade deadline, you're competing against every other GM in the league. Keep building your team. But don't trade for older players. Trade for younger players and assets. Figure it out. I mean, the OKC. I mean, this is not rocket science. I mean, OKC. Sam Presti is GMing circles around the rest of the league. I mean, he's gathering all of these low price assets, and he becomes the guy that everybody's got to go to if you want to make a deal. And it's like, he hasn't won titles yet, but you know what? He's got a hell of a team and a ton of assets, and he looks very much like the smartest GM in the sport. And other teams might want to, I don't know, copy his lead and try to make deals at the deadline. I mean, I heard Wendy say today, and I'm quoting some idiot, but when Wendy said today that he thinks the Warriors may not trade for anybody, but sell pieces to try to get under the luxury tax to try to save money. So I mean, that's the exact opposite of let's try to build and win with Steph. I mean, you're literally selling off players to save your tax bill, and you're a billionaire. I mean, it's just, if you can sell that, then you're a hell of a salesman,
Yeah, I don't listen to Wendy when it comes to the Warriors. He's not someone who's covering that team. He's not that connected with the team. Like, if he's talking LeBron, Lakers, great. That's his guy. In the same way Marcus Thompson is connected to Stephen Curry. That's Brian Windhorst with LeBron. I do not pay attention to him. If anything, I cringe most of the time when I hear him talking about the Warriors, because you can hear some bitterness in his voice talking about the Warriors, because he's such a LeBron stan that when Windhorst talks about the Warriors, you could just hear this bitterness of the fact that the Warriors have prevented LeBron from being the GOAT of the NBA, because without the Warriors, without Steph, LeBron probably does surpass Jordan in terms of titles, and I always sense that. I sense that bitterness. I sense the bias. I don't listen to Brian Windhorst when it comes to the Warriors at all. And the Ramona Shelburne attribution from 2 days ago, this was really pathetic on ESPN's part, because it was the same show you were watching today, NBA Today, which airs usually around noon on ESPN. And the panel had Windhorst, they had Ramona Shelburne, and ESPN blows up the Windhorst segment where Wendy's talking about how, he's never heard Steph say these kinds of things. And LeBron would say the complete opposite. LeBron's attitude would be, I want more. I want to keep making moves. I don't want to be complacent and focus on the franchise's future. And then and that's what all the focus was. Like ESPN aggregated that clip, posted it on social media. Right after that, in the same segment, Ramona Shelburne comes on and goes, look, Stephen Curry is not the type of guy that's going to be okay with losing. He's saying this to send a message to other teams to not think that they can just fleece the Warriors and use them as a desperate team. And it's ridiculous. That's ESPN for you, and that's NBA media for you. But do you want to hear from Steve Kerr, by the way, his reaction to tonight's win?
Sure.
All right, this is courtesy of Anthony Slater. I'm honestly impressed we got any sound after this game, because usually when the Warriors are at the end of a road trip, they're running out of there right after these games to come home. So props to Anthony Slater for getting this attribution. This is Steve Kerr immediately following the Warriors beating the Minnesota Timberwolves by a point in Minnesota. And keep in mind, folks, Anthony Slater is posting these on his phone, so turn the volume up so you can hear it properly. Here is Steve Kerr.
There was a lot of bigger picture conversation about you guys over the last 2 days, and I don't know how much of it kind of was seen or not seen, but do you feel like at all that was maybe part of some of the charge you guys had tonight, particularly Steph seemed to kind of have some extra juice?
We didn't talk about it as a team. We're used to being in the spotlight, and if there's a story about our team, it's going to go everywhere, and everyone's going to talk about it, and it's I hope there's not a misconception that we're not fighting and scrapping and hoping that we can do everything possible to keep this thing going, because that's what we're doing. But it almost feels like the narrative became, Warriors are giving in. We're not giving in. We're just not going to give away the future. It's two totally different things. So we're fighting. You can see we've been competitive all year. We've had a few blowouts, but for the most part, our guys are competing like crazy. They play so hard every night, and just really nice to see them get rewarded, because it's a great group of guys.
I don't know what to say about that. What are your comments? Because Kerr kind of bugs me a little bit when I hear him. I don't like seeing him smiling right there. Like they just won a title. They like this game was a win of significance. You won a regular season game. Good for you. Don't smile and be happy about it. You're still a 500 team. That's my feeling initially. What are your thoughts, Larry?
I mean, I think you're being too hard on him, to be honest. What do you want him to do? I mean, it's like they're not that good. Teams get old. They're now the down cycle. Joe's got a very expensive, opulent arena. Because of that, he really doesn't want to move off of his stars. In a different situation, maybe you'd move a star like Steph somewhere else and let him finish somewhere else. They don't want to do that because there's so many people coming through. He's the whole show. He's the entire reason to go. So, but at the same time, why would you want to give away? I've been saying this all year. Don't give away Kuminga. Now, I really don't care that much. I'm not saying that. But
my gripe is, why are you not giving away GP2 and Looney? What is stopping you from doing that and adding is a second round pick that important? You can get better, but just by trading those two contracts, like why? That's not.
Well, first of all, I mean, you're talking about a guy that that Looney. He calls him Loon. I mean, Steve Kerr loves Kevon Looney.
That's my problem here.
Steve Kerr would literally cry.
That's my issue.
If they got rid of Kevon Looney.
That's my issue. This emotional attachment. Like you're a coach. These are not supposed to be your buddies. This is not supposed to be your family.
But here you're missing it though, because this is how Kerr has done it. Kerr is a player who learned under Phil Jackson. Phil Jackson. This is how Phil did it. He educates and he speaks to you man to man. He keeps the private stuff private.
Yes. And
he is endearing. And over time, he builds loyalty. He shows loyalty, and he gets loyalty. And it's all about managing the season and enjoying, And it's just like Kerr's that way. That's exactly what Kerr is. So he's never going to turn on any of the players. He's never going to throw anybody under the bus. His job is to diffuse.
Unless it's a rookie. Or unless it's a rookie or a second-year player. Then
I mean, he's gonna keep coaching and telling guys, hey, you're not playing because you're playing low percentage idiotic basketball and you're taking low percentage shots early in the shot clock on a team that has Steph Curry. And if you can't figure that out, there's the bench.
Do you support him saying that publicly about his youngsters while simultaneously having this endearing feeling about his veterans? Like that double standard is my problem with him. You know what I'm saying?
But we're only getting a glimpse of it, Si. You're not getting all of the communication. You're getting some of it. And Steve's a straight shooter. Steve is real. Steve is honest. He's just not going to sound out his veterans publicly because that's the code. You don't do that to the veterans.
But why sound out the youngsters, Larry? Why
because
is that
that's the lesson. That's part of paying your dues in the NBA is you have to either get it, or if you don't get it, the coach will tell you at practice, and then if you don't get it then the coach will speak to you through the media because he will have to answer for your mistakes. So that's what's going on. He's frustrated with Kuminga. He's frustrated with the inconsistency at times, right? And he's voiced it. He's spoken a lot less frustration on Podziemski. Why? Because Podziemski doesn't make a lot of mistakes. His mistakes are just He's limited. His shot is ugly. He's got short limbs, so when he goes into the lane, he gets his shit blocked. So there's nothing. He's got no real offensive game. So Kerr's conflicted because he loves Podziemski, his brain, his basketball IQ, his rebounding, his cycle it around, his work for the high, the best percentage shot, but he's not really getting real about the fact that Podziemski is not much of a shooter. Well, maybe he is, maybe he isn't. I don't know. If he is, he's got huge stretches where he doesn't look good.
He's not a scorer, Larry. I think that's the word.
I don't love the form on his shot. I like guys who shoot when they're more going up and down. He's kind of leaning forward when he shoots, like this. Have you seen
all I
him?
know is Phil Jackson
reminds me of like a high school player.
But Phil Jackson was stoic with his press conferences. Like he didn't exhibit much emotion. He was a straight shooter. You could not read him in terms of his face like you can with Steve Kerr, where after the Raptors game he has this like depressed, like morbid, like the world is crashing down, and then you beat Minnesota and suddenly everything's fine again. It's not fine again. You're a 500 team. I guess I don't know. I just don't agree. I don't think Kerr.
Cy, you are a hardcore Warrior guy, and you're having a hard time coming to grips with the fact that this 12-3 start. By the way, ESPN, if you did watch that show you were talking about before, then I know you saw that stat, which basically they put on the screen, which is an unbelievable stat, which is that no team has ever missed the playoffs after a 12-3 start.
One did, and no team has ever fallen below 500 after starting 12-3. Yeah.
Either way, that's probably that's why Kerr's feeling some pressure, and guys like yourself are looking at that start and now looking at a 500 team and going, oh my God, do something or figure it out. They are going to try to make some moves. Dunleavy's going to make some moves.
I hope so.
I would say Vucevic is likely, but the question is, and listening to Windy, he made it seem like they may just sell off some of these contracts and get like second round picks in return.
Don't buy that.
And get underneath the cap or get underneath the tax.
I'm not buying that at all.
First of all, if that is their plan, then they deserve to be publicly flogged.
Agreed.
Because you have Steph Curry, and I'm not saying you need to sell out for it, but you need to make moves on the margins to bring in a Vucevic. I mean, who would be a very, very impactful player, in my opinion, on this team. I mean, think about the Warriors right now, and then think about them adding a 7-footer who's a former All-Star, who's 20-10 and 40+% from three. That would make them quite a bit better, would it not?
Hell yeah, dude. They're not losing to the Raptors with that one piece. Like, sometimes one player can have a profound, in the same way that Kuminga missing from the Warriors has suddenly made them look very average. Adding a Vucevic would profoundly improve this team. Just to have it, Stephen Curry has never had a stretch five. Someone in the chat, by the way, brought up, who would you rather have, Vucevic or Jonas Valanciunas of the Wizards? Absolutely Vucevic. Miles Turner's in the same vein.
Well, they're totally different.
Night and day. I'd rather have someone who can actually...
Vucevic is a perfect guy to play with Draymond, right? I mean, or Kuminga, or anybody who's not really a shooter, because he's a big, who's a shooter, and he's smart, but he's also 34 years old.
Right, but it's a 2-year rental. It's a year and a half rental.
How old is Valanciunas?
He's 34, 35. And his contract will expire next year.
Valanciunas is 35?
Oh, no. I'm sorry. Vucevic. I don't know. Valanciunas, I think he's like late 20s, around 30.
Yeah, see, Valanciunas, that's what I'm saying. Valanciunas might be the smarter play if you're thinking down the road. If
the only reason why I'm not a big...
Vucevic is going to make you better. Vucevic
the only reason why I'm not a big Valanciunas guy is because him and Trace Jackson Davis, they're almost like the same guy. Like, I feel like if you're going to add a big, add someone who can actually space the floor for you the way that Steve Kerr allegedly wants. I mean, he said himself publicly, and by the way, we're going to go to there's a lot of paid super chats we're going to get to in just a second, including HR, we had a fun time this morning. He was ribbing me and it created great content. But HR drops $5 saying, by the way, apologize for the ad hominem attacks earlier today. But the whole reason, and look, it's all good. It created great content. It was all in jest. But HR made a good point, which is that the reason why Buddy Hield plays is because he spaces the floor. Imagine having a 7-footer who does that and who can actually hit these shots consistently, and he doesn't cost much. Part of me wonders if the messaging coming from Stephen Curry and Steve Kerr publicly is aimed towards the Bulls. Like the Bulls are known for being just total D-bags when it comes to trades, free agents. I mean, this is a team that just kept going year after year with DeMar DeRozan and Billy Donovan as your head coach and Zach LaVine. Like, they just kept going with this over and over. They finally traded Alex Caruso last year as the first sign of a rebuild, but they might not be an easy team to negotiate with. And maybe that's what this whole the whole point of Steph coming out publicly was, to send a message to the Bulls and teams like that going, dude, like, what are you doing here, man? Like, we're not going to give you a Kuminga or some sort of like high, desirable piece just to get a rental for a year and a half. F that, dude. Either take our second rounders or get the F out of here. That's my guess. I mean, none of us really know for certain, but HR, it's all good. I mean, would you, Larry, would you honestly believe that Valanciunas would not be a huge asset? Like, he would not be impactful? Like, what do you think about Valanciunas?
I like Valanciunas. He's a big body, but he's not a scorer. Well, Vucevic is a scorer on the perimeter, and he's a former All-Star. He's really smart. He's playing very efficient basketball right now because he's long in the tooth. I mean, he's playing, in some ways, some of the best basketball of his career. I know he was an All-Star, but I mean, he's really smart and crafty now. I mean, he's really a very good player. I mean, Vucevic would make them quite a bit better, but he is a today player.
Yeah.
And he's not a tomorrow player, because he's going to make an older team older. And so he's kind of the kind of player that I think Steph is saying in some ways don't acquire, because he's a now only player and there's not a big future there.
Yeah. By the way, Vucevic turns
I'd almost
33 in May. So he's not really that young. It's only like a year or two difference between him and Vucevic.
Yeah, Valanciunas is not the same player, though. He's a stronger, bigger body guy who doesn't have neither guy can jump, but he's more of a rebounder, more of an inside force.
Yes.
Though he's not an awesome rim protector. Neither of these guys are great shot blockers. I mean,
No.
Vucevic is.
But then you're not getting him for that. You're getting him for the rebounding. You're getting him just.
I like Vucevic more. Vucevic has always been better. And also he's more of a Vucevic, if he wanted to finish out his career here, could play the next 2 or 3 years and play at a pretty high level and be part of some teams that actually are title relevant. And I think that's what I'm getting from Steph, is that he wants the Warriors to be title relevant at a price. If the price is too exorbitant, he's like, hey, just, that's fine. But if he, all things being equal, he would like them to be just relevant in the title chase. And I understand that, because you want to feel like you want to have some excitement, you want to feel like you're in the mix. Now the question is, can they get there, and what price? What will they have to give up? What will it do to them long term? So I don't, there's a lot of decisions that have to be made here. And it's not a great roster, and that Steve is super tied to Looney, super tied to Peyton, super tied to Curry, super tied to Draymond, Wiggs. He's really tied to his guys. And then the guys that aren't his guys, the younger guys, Kuminga and Moody and Buddy, who's new, and TJD. Those guys are like, hey, you know what? They just got to kind of fit in around, him trying to satisfy the guys that are his guys. That's how I see it. I mean, I don't think it's a great team. I told you on opening night, 38 wins.
You did.
They're on a pace for 41, but they're really not on a pace for 41 because they got off to a 12-3 start. So if you take away the 12-3 start, they're probably on pace for like 35 wins. And
I'm very curious.
That's where it's going to be.
I'm trying to find this right now. I'm trying to determine what the over/under is currently. That's one of the really cool things that you can do when it comes to betting on futures. And I'm just very curious to know if that option is available. I can't find it on BetOnline. If someone out there has that, post it in the chat. Do you mind if we get a live audience member on the show, Larry? Do you have time for that?
Sure.
Here is Kai. Good to hear from you, brother. How you doing?
Gentlemen,
Kai?
hey, greetings, guys.
Hey.
Are you hear me?
We can hear you. How are you doing?
Yeah, man, all is well. By the way, Happy New Year to you. First time
Happy
on
New
the
Year to you
show
too.
since the turn of the year. Good to have a win. Finally, we have a very nervous win it was in the end. We barely got there, but we did. But in discussing the trade options that we're talking about here, I'm in agreement with what Larry's saying. I have to agree with what Larry's saying. For one, I do not believe that we owe it to anybody, to Steph Curry, and I love Steph. I love him with everything in me. But we do not owe it to Steph Curry to demolish the team and the future of the team to try to get him a running partner because it doesn't guarantee a win. Are we going to get Giannis? If we're getting Giannis, yes. But I don't. For one, if we get Vucevic, what does that do? Get us out of the plane and maybe get us to the fifth seed and still lose in the first round?
Yep.
What are we giving up to get him? Because
probably not much. Probably a second-round pick and some filler. I mean, Looney, probably going to give up Looney, and you have to give up $20 million worth of players.
And GP2 would be included. So, but let me. I just saw this news story though, which again feeds the idea that maybe Steph and Steve Kerr were going public with their comments as a message to other teams. The Athletic is this is insane. The Athletic is reporting that the Washington Wizards are now being picky about trading Jonas Valanciunas, and they're not going to simply accept second-round picks. They want combinations of picks, or they want a high draft pick. You're not getting jack shit, Washington, for Jonas Valanciunas. But if this is how teams are acting now, then no, I agree. You're not giving up important pieces. Second rounder or bust.
Yeah,
is that fair? I mean, what do you guys think about that?
I just checked on Valanciunas on his age. He's turning 33. Valanciunas.
Yes.
He's turning 33, and Nikola Vucevic is turning 35 this year.
Correct.
That is something to also consider with Vucevic. So and I mean, I would do the Looney and GP2 and whatever little.
That's all I'm advocating for. That's all I'm saying.
For Vucevic, but forget Jimmy Butler. There is, in other words, there is nothing out there that's gonna make this Warriors team into a Western Conference final team.
Okay, but let's talk about this though, because I've seen it done for years by NBA general managers. They keep trading and they keep trading and they keep trading, and then all of a sudden their old team is no longer old because they traded and got younger players. And maybe it's one younger player, one older player, but you move off of the older player and you keep the younger player. All I would say is keep building and keep looking for attractive deals. And you know what? There may be a team out there that's willing, because of their situation, their cap, their locker room, their whatever, to give you a good young piece or a draft pick for a Draymond Green. Be open-minded.
Right. Now you're talking, because to be honest, right now, if I have the option of moving off Draymond Green or moving off Wiggins, I'm moving off Draymond Green. I'm keeping Wiggins and I'm moving off Draymond Green. They both make about the same salary.
You've said that before, Kai. I hear you.
Yeah. They both make about the same salary, and Draymond Green has cost us more grief than Wiggins.
I feel like, and Larry, Kai, I feel like if you're going to move on, if you're willing to trade Dre, you might as well trade everybody. I mean, why not just blow the whole thing up at that point? Like, why just Dre? You know what I'm saying?
Well, I'll say this. Today is kind of an interesting day in the NBA, because as of today, the following players are eligible to be traded. And this is a list that includes some really interesting players that the Warriors might have interest in. Precious Achua from the Knicks, OG Anunoby from the Knicks, Goga Bitadze from the big man. Yeah, from the Magic. Miles Bridges, who hit his girlfriend, but man, he's a hell of a player. Max Christie, Lakers. Nick Claxton, Nets. Haywood Highsmith from the Heat. Isaiah Joe, who can flat out shoot it. I love Isaiah Joe. OKC Thunder. Johnny Juzang, the former Bruin, who's in Utah. KJ Martin, Tyrese Maxey, Malik Monk, Josh Okogie, Scottie Pippen, Emmanuel Quickley, Obi Toppin, Aaron Wiggins, Patrick Williams.
I think Okogie got traded today, if I'm not mistaken. The Suns traded him as a supposedly it could be like a first move. They traded him to the Hornets for Nick Richards, and I think that's going to be the first of a series of moves. The Suns want Jimmy Butler. That's everything. That's what's being reported all over the place. Nick Claxton is a name that sticks out from that list, Larry, you just said, because most of those names are either they're not going to be traded, like the teams want them, or they don't fit with the Warriors. Nick Claxton really is the only name that sticks out. Are there any names, Larry, from what you said that you actually like?
Well, I mean, yeah, I do like a lot of these guys, depending on what the price tag is. I mean, Malik Monk is a tremendous scorer. I mean,
will they trade him? Will the Kings trade him though? Like, I don't know if they would give him up.
I don't know if they would give. I doubt they would give him up.
Yeah.
I like Isaiah Joe just because I like adding guys who can flat out shoot it.
I don't think they'll trade him either, though. You know what I'm saying?
He's one of the pure shooters. Miles Bridges, I really like him. I mean, I'm the Knicks. The Knicks are an interesting team because, man, the Warriors. Are you gonna stick with Steph Curry? Is he gonna stay, or are they gonna cross that bridge and consider moving Steph at some point?
I don't think that happens. That's just my opinion.
Steph only leaves if he asks to leave, and Steph will never ask to leave, so that's not happening.
Agreed.
Well, I agree, but what if? He quietly says, hey, because he could whisper it, anytime now and just be like, because the deadline's in what, 3 weeks?
February 6th, correct.
Yeah, so it's 3 weeks away. So he easily could whisper to Dunleavy at this point, hey, by the way, I
just don't think he'll do that, Larry.
Nah,
do you really
think
he?
Nah, he never will.
I respect Steph too
he's
much.
probably too rooted here with the kids and all.
Yeah.
But all I would say is, it would be best for the NBA if Steph went to the Knicks and won a title there.
That's a beautiful story for a journalist.
I don't even have I don't.
Kai, we don't
any
care.
Final thoughts before we move on?
We don't care.
Yeah, my final thought before I move on is that, to me, the greatest hope for this Warrior team, and it might not happen this year, but it still could happen this year, is Jonathan Kuminga returns from injury, goes berserk, gets us into the 6th seed, and we get into the playoffs and we win a round or two. That's our best hope. That's
I like
our best
it.
hope.
And what I've said before, and I'll say it again, Kai, this Western Conference, the way it is set up this year, this is why I'm advocating in the same way I did in 2021-22. The landscape is very similar. There is no one team in the West that is just an impossibility for the Warriors to overcome. You can get through that for those 3 rounds in the West and get to the finals. It's possible. Like the OKC Thunder are not, they're as small as the Warriors are. The Warriors have already beaten them once. There's no one team, like the Lakers and Nuggets, honestly scare me more than anyone else.
They could have a bad series.
So that's where I'm at. I'm with you, man. I think the Warriors just really have to get into it. Kai, we're going to move on if you don't mind. Thank you for coming on, though, brother. Because I want to get to Carson Taylor's paid chat here real fast. I'm sorry for taking so long to get to this. Carson Taylor dropping $4.99, writing LaMelo Ball and Nick Richards, who I think was just traded today. So I don't know if this is still
traded. He just got traded.
So for Wiggins, Schroeder, 2 to 3 first-round picks. I don't think the Hornets do that. I don't think LaMelo Ball's on the market. What do you think, Larry?
If he is, go get him.
Yes.
Because he is super entertaining. And the Warriors right now, I'll tell you what the bummer about the Warriors. It's like you feel like there's like inherent sadness watching them because they're like a yesterday team. Like you can tell when the NBA shows talk about the Warriors, they're a yesterday team. They're not a today team, and they're certainly not a tomorrow team. And I just think that they should keep trading guys and shake it up. Their roster is totally forgettable.
I'm not there, man. I'm not there yet, dude. I still think
shake it up. Keep making deals. Not every deal. Stop making deals that everything's got to fit perfectly. Don't stop worrying about everything fitting perfectly. Use whatever assets you can to go get another good younger player.
Larry,
and that would change your dynamic.
What you just said there is why I have a gripe with Kerr. Kerr is the reason why they can't, he's the obstacle to that. He's so picky and peculiar about who is on his team. Like, the reason why Wiggins has not been traded is because of Steve Kerr. I don't know if he's just projecting Stephen Curry's comfort.
The Warriors
and
are crazy. Then the Warriors are crazy because last year they were dying to trade him and nobody wanted him. Now he plays better, and instead of being like, "Oh, good, this guy that we were dying to trade has played better. Now we can fucking trade his ass." Instead, they're like, "Nah, now he's playing well. Let's keep him." I mean,
and that's Kerr, man.
Then I can't help you. I can't help you.
Cassius Boyd dropping $1.99, saying the Warriors won championships with no center playing. They did have centers. JaVale McGee played. David West played. What's the guy?
The Warriors have never won a single title without a center.
Ever. I mean, Kevon Looney grabbed 22 rebounds in the Western Conference clinching game in 2022 in Game 6. They've always had centers. And here's the thing. The Warriors, even all those title teams, we bring up small ball, they were not that small, man. Klay Thompson was your starting shooting guard at 6'7". Harrison Barnes was 6'7". Kevin Durant was 6'11".
7-foot small forward.
Yeah, there were nothing like this. This is small ball. What we're seeing right now. Carson Taylor also, Larry, I'm glad Carson brought this up too, because I want to ask you this, Larry. Carson Taylor dropping $1.99, bringing up Quentin Post, who again was not called up. He is lighting up the G League. Larry, what do you think is holding the Warriors back from giving this kid serious minutes?
Once again, I mean, it's like, Kerr kind of runs the team like he's a gang leader. It's like, it's like unless you have a certain amount of experience, it doesn't matter. I mean, it took them forever to realize that Trace Jackson Davis was ready for minutes. I mean, my God, we watched Looney play game after game after game just because they didn't think Trace Jackson Davis could do it. I mean, it's like, so they don't see it. They don't have the vision. I'd love to have seen Post and how he's doing it, though. What is he? To me, he's a shooter, right? He's just camping from three and just nailing threes. Is that what he's doing?
Well, let me. I'm going to try and find right now the stat line because it's incredible. Here, I'll tell you what. Stephen Curry just spoke to the press, and this is, again, courtesy of Anthony Slater doing a phenomenal job tonight providing these sound bites. Here is Stephen Curry after tonight's win. And while we're listening to and watching Steph talking about tonight's win, I'll quickly look up those Quentin Post numbers because he is lighting it up. He's 7 feet. He can shoot from deep. He's a three-point shooter. For everything I'm hearing is that his skill sets are defined. All he needs is experience. I'll look up those numbers real fast though. But first and foremost, here is Stephen Curry again.
Then maybe you don't need Vucevic. Maybe Vucevic is the wrong angle. Maybe they need a big man who can shoot. So maybe Vucevic is not the answer. Maybe Post is.
Maybe. And I'll look up those numbers real fast. Again, turn your volume up because Slater is posting these on his phone. So the audio is not super great unless you crank up your own device. Here is Stephen Curry following tonight's 1-point win in Minnesota.
Outside the bathroom.
You're obviously aware of kind of what has been the national talking point over the last couple of days. Did that provide any extra motivation in this game?
Not at all. It's always motivated and challenged to compete and try to win, do my job. When you're in a situation like our organization is, where everything is rightfully so compared to that championship expectation, everything's going to get micro-analyzed, and obviously what I'm talking about, Draymond was talking about, Steve was talking about, you forget the part where we're talking about we're always trying to get better. Like, what does that actually mean? So it's obviously not our job to worry about that on a daily basis. And these 3 weeks before the trade deadline, our job is to win as many games as possible. And thankfully we got one tonight.
Steve mentioned he felt like the narrative had become that you guys were basically waving the white flag. Were you surprised that that's how it was taken? And I guess, is there any clarification you want to give on that aspect.
Anybody who thinks that I'm okay with just being an average basketball, on an average basketball team is insane. Take whatever I said, I still stand on it, but that doesn't mean that you're not in a situation where you're trying to get better, make appropriate moves that help you do that. Mike knows that. We talked about it. That's the expectation for me, trying to help lead the team where we want to go. Again, that doesn't mean that you're reckless. What people's definition of that is what I was talking about the Twitter fans thing. Like, trade machines are fun, but what does that actually look like? So we're gonna handle our business. Mike's gonna handle his, and see where we end up.
Your thoughts, Larry? I loved hearing that. What do you think?
Well, I mean, what's he talking? Who's Mike? Oh, he's talking about Dunleavy. He's talking about Dunleavy. Yeah, I mean, first of all, Steph wants a win. So anything he's saying is, if you don't think that he wants to win, you're wrong. He wants to win. He just, unlike LeBron, who doesn't give a shit if the Lakers burn into the ground when he's not there, he'd rather them accelerate all their assets into the present to try to make his, whatever time left with the Lakers that much, more enjoyable and successful. Well, Steph's not thinking like that. Steph's like, hey, you know what? I don't want to see this team just, either get taken in trades or drive their franchise off the cliff, trying to get, players in their mid-30s to try to help me get one more ring. Because invariably, if it doesn't work, he's smart enough to know that on some level the fans are going to blame him. And he doesn't want a bitter end to, if all of a sudden they traded Kuminga and Moody and Pajemski and they got some, LeBron or something, or, whatever, some 35-year-old player, and they didn't even make it to the conference finals, it would be like, oh, they kowtowed to Steph and it didn't work. And, so I'm sure he doesn't want that. He doesn't want the burden of that.
Yeah.
So I do think, though, they should change the vibe around the franchise by kind of seeing if they could, make the kind of move at the deadline that would change the focus away from, the slow but relentless, issue that you have when you get older in the NBA, where it's just you're just a little bit worse, a little bit worse, a little bit worse. Are you done? No, you're not done, but you're not really contending for a title, and then everybody's kind of depressed because they're watching somebody that they used to watch be great, and now they're just good and on their way to being just okay and then retiring. It's like if they could somehow take some of their assets and find a young piece to the puzzle that maybe doesn't make them a champion now, but maybe kind of gives the whole franchise a new vibe. I could see that. I mean, they have guys on this team that need a change of scenery. There's a lot of players around this league that are rumored to be in the trade market. You don't have to. Every trade doesn't have to lead to a title this year. It could just be about putting together a better roster and building going forward. But I don't think they should. I don't think they should just give up and say, "Oh, we can't win a title, and there's nobody out there that's kind of a difference maker, so we're going to do nothing." Nothing is the worst. Do something. Keep progressing. Bring in a younger, more exciting player as part of your deal. Move some older guys and churn your roster from an older roster to a younger roster slowly but surely. Obviously, it's not going to completely get there, but I think that's what I would try to do. So if somebody wants Draymond Green, Knicks want Draymond Green, great. I want Jericho Sims. I want draft picks. I want some young guys.
The image on the screen, if you're watching this on YouTube right now, is Quinton Post, his most recent game where he scored 30 points, grabbed 11 boards, shot 55% from the field. On the season in Santa Cruz, where he's played 5 games, he's averaging 25 points a game. He's grabbing 12.8 rebounds per game. He's shooting 47.2% from deep. He's shooting 59.2% from the field.
What's
He's
he shooting
averaging
from the foul line?
2.2 turnovers per game in 30.9 minutes.
What's he shooting from the foul line?
His free throw percentage.
He'll tell you how pure his shot is.
His free throw percentage is 76.9.
That's good. That's good.
Yes.
For a kid, for a young player, that's really good. That means he's going to be in the 80% range at some point.
I'm ready for Quentin Post, man. I'm totally with you. I just don't like the whole we're going to do nothing thing. We're on the same page there, man.
Move off of Looney, GP2, some of these guys.
Yeah.
Get them. If you care about them, then get them to a place where they can win a ring and get a young piece or two or a couple assets, second-round picks, whatever. Turn over your roster and get some younger players. I mean, my God, it's GM 101. Let's see it happen. I think if I were them, I would have already made a move, by the way.
I know.
I mean, you started 12-3, and you allowed yourself to get sub 500 without making a move.
Here's the thing with Quentin Post. He's not a raw product. I think he played all 4 years in college. So promote him. Let's see him play, man. He's killing it. Playing for the Santa Cruz Warriors. So now and here, look, I'll even I'll say a positive about Steve Kerr here. Okay, this is how much I try to be objective. There is a possibility Steve Kerr, whose son Nicholas is the head coach of Santa Cruz, there is a possibility that Nicholas is maybe telling his dad he's not ready. I could see that, but again, the eye test. I've had multiple sources tell me this kid is ready. All he needs is experience, which means play him in the NBA. We saw the numbers. Yeah, look, do something, just anything. Anyways, in the chat real fast, wrapping things up here, Tasha Johnson, who I think we were emailing. I think she made me a YouTube short. We'll communicate soon, but you are now a golden dazer. Thank you for that. Any other page? Oh, look at this positivity wrapping up the show. Clarence Beeks dropping $5. 8 of the next 9 Warriors games are at home, Larry. How does that sound to you?
Time to get some wins. But really more than anything, they gotta map out their plan because they gotta this is gonna be very interesting for Mike Dunleavy because he's got to figure out what exactly is the right move. And it's very, very nuanced. This is a very nuanced situation. And you could make the right move and really give your franchise a lift. Or you could make the wrong move and set your franchise back for years.
Yeah.
So they really are at a very, very precarious time in their history. And the next 2 or 3 moves they make will not just be defining of their direction, but also could be very, very important as far as how long it takes for them to get back up on top.
I'm fairly confident in saying this, Larry. If the Warriors have a trade available to them where all it's going to cost them is Kevon Looney, Gary Payne II, and a second-round pick, I think the future's fine if you do that trade. That's all I'm saying. Now, granted, we don't know what other teams are saying or doing, right? Like, the Brooklyn Nets have shown that you can get somebody for cheap. Dennis Schroeder came for practically nothing. Reese Beekman was the biggest price, and that was a pretty big price. I didn't support that. But the point is, Dennis Schroeder was there for practically nothing. There are other players out there available for that same price tag. You don't have to mortgage the future. Just do something, please.
Mix
you want to do a scoreboard, or are you burned out?
What
are you thinking?
It's the whole thing is stale.
Yeah.
I mean,
agreed.
they got to win tonight. That's great, but it's stale. I mean, it's so stale. If you can't see that the Warriors are stale and need to be shaken up, now, what's a good idea? How about shake it up for a 24-year-old like Zion Williamson?
Now you're talking, Larry. I brought this up this morning in terms of why that would be awesome. Like the worst case scenario. Let's talk about that for a second.
He's begging out.
And the Pelicans are begging him out as well. They want him gone too.
Yes.
The price, from what I'm hearing, is practically nothing. Here's the thing: you could trade Wiggins, GP2, Looney throw in 2 second-rounders. You're not giving up a first-round pick. The Pelicans have no leverage here, right? Let's say Zion comes here and it doesn't work out. It's a bust. His contract is not guaranteed. You can move on. And you'd also be moving on from Wiggins' contract. You now have cap space to pursue Miles Turner next summer. I'm with you, man. Why not?
He's 24 years old.
Why not? Why not, man? I don't get the whole Wiggins.
If I'm the Warriors, where they're at right now, to me it makes perfect sense to take the next year or two and see if you can get Zion right. Because if you can get Zion right, I mean, did I not see him in the play-in tournament last year? Have like 25 and 15 or something like that.
Before he got hurt. Yeah, Zion was killing it last year, and then he got hurt, and that was that, yeah.
I mean, I know his agent personally, Bill Duffy here in Walnut Creek. Bill has told me we are going to get this kid right, and we're going to get his career going in the right direction. Bill understands he's carrying too much weight on his frame. It's causing him to have injuries. He's only 24. I think he's going to get this kid on the right path, get him a nutritionist, trim down some of that muscle mass. There's ways to do that too. Get him in a leaner, lighter body, and see if he can have the great, incredible NBA career that many people predicted for him, coming out of Duke.
Yeah.
But he was 285 coming out of Duke, and that he couldn't. And somebody should have told him, Zion, you cannot gain even 1 pound. You have to stay at 280, 285. If you ever get above 285, you're going to be in a bad spot. He got to like 320.
I think and adding to that, Larry, I think someone needs to remind him that the buffet at the strip club, not healthy for you. Look, you're going to go to the club.
It's just, I'm never going to question anybody going anywhere. When I was his age, I went to a lot of those clubs too. So have fun. That's all I'd say.
Do you have the energy for a scoreboard, or do you want to wrap it up? I'll leave that up to you, brother. Quickly. All right, let's do it real fast. NBA scoreboard around the association. Oh my God, Larry, listen to this score. Holy shit! The Clippers beating the Brooklyn Nets tonight in LA in the Intuit Arena, whatever that place is called. 126-67. What is that? 33, 40. Is that a 59 point? Am I doing my math right? The Clippers beat the Nets by 59, 126, 67 points in a game. Woo! Any reaction to that?
Oh, I mean, just the worst shooting of all time. 5 of 28, 17% from 3.
Ooh.
These guys made 54% of their free throws. I mean, that's how
wild,
pathetic
man.
They were. That's bad. They had an entire starting lineup. Nobody even made double figures.
Oh!
This is like a 4th grade game.
That's got to be in
like
the history
CYO.
books. Yeah,
I mean, they should have refunded the money. I mean, that's
I wonder
just
how many times in
ridiculous.
history that's happened in the NBA where a team did not have a single double-digit score. It's got to be like
No, they did have a
incredibly
double-digit
rare thing.
score off the bench. Jalen Wilson and Day'Ron Sharp had double figures off the bench. Just none of their starters.
Okay, there you go.
None of the starters got double figs.
Yeah, that's incredible. So moving on, we're flying through this. The Lakers winning tonight. They beat the Miami Heat at home 117-108. The Lakers improving to 21-17. The Heat dropping to 20-19. The Utah Jazz losing at home to the Charlotte Hornets 117-112. Utah dropping to 10-29. Charlotte improving to 9-28. That was absolutely the must-watch game of the night, being facetious. A game that was fairly must-watch. The Houston Rockets taking care of business against the Nuggets in Denver, 128-108. Houston improves to 27-12. Denver drops to 24-16. Larry, please jump in at any point if you have any input. I don't want to hoard this segment here. Memphis defeated the San Antonio Spurs tonight, 129-115. Memphis improving to 26-15. The Spurs dropping to 19-20. That means they fell behind the Warriors because the Warriors improved to 500 after tonight's win. The New Orleans
20-10 for my man Santi Aldama.
That is your guy, dude. I didn't know he was drafted the same year as Kuminga. He was part of that draft class. I didn't know that. I looked it up recently, and That was a deep draft, dude. Some players are really starting to come to fruition from that, like Cade Cunningham, Evan Mobley. That was a deep draft, dude. Your guy Sengun, who could have been on the Warriors if they had drafted him instead of Moses Moody, but I digress. They need you in their scouting department, man. You know talent. You are incredible at that, sir, among many things. Moving along. Wrapping things up here, the Milwaukee Bucks 122-93 winners at home over the Magic. Milwaukee improving to 22-17. Orlando dropping to 23-19. Despite Paolo Banchero coming back, the Magic are reeling, largely due to a lot of injuries, and the Bucks, after that disastrous start, doing okay. The Atlanta Hawks 110-94 winners of the Chicago Bulls in Chicago. Nikola Vucevic, who we've talked about a lot, 14 points, 16 rebounds in that game. The Hawks improved to 21-19. The Bulls dropped to 18-23. Two more scores. Larry, this one's wild.
In that game, by the way, that Hawks Bulls game.
Yeah.
Did you see who had 19 for the Hawks?
I did not.
Plowden, the guy who was Daquan Plowden, who the Warriors had earlier this year. 19 points in 25 minutes for Plowden.
That sucks. That just sucks.
I'm also hearing the Bulls may move Kobe White. He had 16 tonight. They need to make a trade. I saw that they're open to moving Kobe White. I read that today. Patrick Williams, Vucevic, Kobe White, Levine. They're open-minded about moving all these guys.
This is where, like, if you're talking trade with the Bulls, I would mortgage some important pieces. I'm talking like a first rounder. If you can throw in a Kobe White, I that's shocking to me. I think he could be a good player in this game. Yeah, that's crazy. The Toronto Raptors beat the Warriors 2 games ago, 104-101, in a game that was ringing alarm bells for the Warriors. Well, guess what? 2 days later, the Toronto Raptors beat the Boston Celtics at home tonight, and that kicked their ass, 110-97. So maybe the Raptors just peaking at the exact same moment when the Warriors came into town. And last but not least, the New York Knicks defeating the 76ers tonight in overtime. That was the game preceding the Warriors game on ESPN. If you live in the Bay Area, you could not have watched that ESPN broadcast because of a regional blackout. So we were forced to listen to Bob Fitzgerald and Glenn Azubuike. But the Knicks win 125-119. They improved to 27-15. The Sixers, their season incredibly still alive after that horrendous start. They dropped to 15-24. Larry, final thoughts, sir, as we wrap up.
What is wrong with the Sixers? I mean, there's something really wrong there.
Dork Elvis, I think, is what's wrong. That's my opinion.
Well, they didn't have the big man tonight, but I mean, What is going on with the 76ers? I mean, it's just they're just not good. I mean, it's I don't know what it's going to be interesting at the trade deadline to see what teams shake it up and what teams don't. You know, do you have any idea who may shake it up at the deadline?
Just you mean across the entire association?
Yeah, I mean, like, is there a team that's going to like blow it up and trade a bunch of pieces?
That's a great question. Like, I don't think it's going to be Philly, because if they do that, Dork Elvis is going to get blown out with them. Charlotte Hornets are a candidate. We saw Carson Taylor drop a $4.99 in the chat earlier, bringing up that LaMelo Ball trade proposal. Charlotte might be a team, but no, I don't really see anyone who's going to do that. Sacramento, maybe, but you know better than me, Larry. Your brother is a fanatic of that team, from what you've told me, and I know you cover them fairly closely. Do you think Sacramento would blow things up, or no?
I don't know. What do they have to trade? I mean, you can trade DeRozan.
Well, De'Aaron Fox. I mean, De'Aaron Fox is going to be there is some chatter.
There's been a lot of talk of that Fox is moving.
Correct.
If he wants out, and has he already asked to be out? He may have already asked out.
No, but I mean, the Mike Brown firing, I'm guessing, has something to do with De'Aaron Fox, and it goes to show, man, sometimes a coaching change is the medicine a team needs. I mean, the Kings have been on fire since they made that change. Carson Taylor. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I wasn't gonna. I can't stand Doug Christie, so I'm to me he's just the biggest fake.
I gotta ask why.
I just because he's not a stand-up guy. I mean, I don't think he treated his broadcast partner all that great, and I'm just not a fan. Not a fan.
There you go. Yeah, and him and Steve Kerr got into it when the Warriors and Kings last played. I thought that was kind of funny. By the way, Carson Taylor does bring up a great point, and you've done this before, Carson. You're doing it again. I respect it. Bringing up the positive of Andrew Wiggins, besides when he does bring the force on the offensive side of the ball. His defense, look, I agree. His defense is incredible. It's just, I just wish he was consistent. If he was consistent, I'd never talk about him except in a positive way. But he lays eggs, man. It sucks. I don't know. What do you think, Larry, about Carson Taylor's chat as we wrap it up?
Well, this is what I think. I think, how valuable is he defensively? I realize he's a good player. You're 500.
Yeah.
You're a 500 team.
Yeah.
You're the 10th best team in the conference. The conference only has 16 teams. So, I mean,
You're right. I'm not, like I said, I don't think he's an untouchable like some people say, but
they're 10th out of 15 teams in the conference.
Yeah.
So we're celebrating, a guy on a team that's not very good.
I hear you.
I don't know. To me, I think Andrew Wiggins has long since needed a change of scenery. I just think that he was good in the finals against the Bulls or against the Celtics. You know what? Since then, I'm not impressed. And if you want to move him, I'd move him. I mean, he'd be, first of all, anybody you get of substance, you're going to have to move him anyway, just because of the contract. So he's likely moving if they find a trade target they like. But my goodness, do it already.
Yeah.
I mean, how long are you going to wait? He just seems so, he's all right. But I mean, they're 500. So, I mean, do you want to, the Warriors are really in this NBA middle ground now where they're too good to really get the best pick in the lottery or something like that. They're better than New Orleans, better than Utah, better than Portland, better than Spurs, better than the Suns, better than the Wizards, better than the Hornets, better than the Raptors. So they're not going to get a top pick. They're not going to get Flag from Duke, but then they're also not going to get, they're not going anywhere. So they're in that NBA middle ground that you never want to be in, and teams get stuck there for 10 years.
Yeah,
so you know what?
I agree.
If I was them, I would fight like crazy for relevance. Either relevance to get better right away or relevance to sell off pieces to get better in the future. But don't just spin your wheels doing nothing, taking a situation that a roster you could turn over in 2 years and just sit with it for 5 and just have this malaise. I don't know. If maybe you guys are enjoying this year more than me. Maybe I should just shut up. I predicted 38 wins. We're headed towards 38 wins. To me, it's not all that fun to watch.
I don't think there's anyone who calls themselves a member of Dub Nation who is happy with how the season is going. They were during that 12-3 stretch. Since then, not so much. Carson Taylor also adding, did we see what Andrew Wiggins did tonight defensively to Anthony Edwards? And again, we did. We saw it. It's just, is he doing that every game, right? Like, there are games where he's not doing that, and that's been the problem. Baby Cakes, following up on your comment, Larry, about Doug Christie, saying Grant Napier, who was his broadcast partner, said that Doug Christie did not deserve to be the interim head coach. Any thoughts on that? If that's true.
I'll let Grant speak about Doug. Grant knows Doug. No, I don't. I don't think Doug was loyal to Grant. That bothers me.
There you go. That's fair. That's fair. I value loyalty personally. So if there's any issue there, that's like Larry, I'm loyal to you, brother, to the end. And I think you know that. June Adolfo. Let's finish up with this one because I think this is a great question. If the Warriors lose their next game, it's a home game against, I think, easily the worst team in the NBA, the Washington Wizards. If they lose that game, Larry, is that like a panic button being pounded? I mean, what's the reaction if that happens? Because I think that would be the ultimate low point personally.
I think the Warriors, I mean, it's pretty clear. I mean, Steve knows what they are. Steph knows what they are. Draymond knows what they are. The only thing we don't know, the only mystery is, how does Dunleavy feel? How does Joe feel? But I think they're pretty smart guys. So I think they probably see the Warriors for what they are. And, So it'll be very interesting to see what their next move is.
Agreed. And Carson Taylor, I imagine you must have been bitter back in 2020 when the Warriors did not draft LaMelo Ball. It's obvious you want him. I'm not opposed to it. Larry said he's not opposed to the idea. I think that a huge part of that comes down to the Charlotte Hornets and whether they want to trade their superstar and then what the price would be. But I don't hate the idea at all. Yeah, sign me up. All right, man. We went a long way, but I think we entertained the audience, Larry. Look at those. Oh, you don't see the numbers. 1264 currently still with us after an hour and a half. I'd say that's a good sign, brother. Anything you want to promote before we go? Besides the fact, I'll say this part. People can follow Larry Krueger on all social media platforms, as far as I know, at Sports Larry K. So make sure you follow Larry, at least on Twitter, Instagram, those kind of platforms. Anything else you'd like to promote as we wrap up this evening's program?
No, just thanks to everybody. We are my channel. We're doing a spring training trip, and we are looking for a sponsor for our spring training trip. So if anybody wants to sponsor the Krug Show and our trip to Arizona in the month of March, just contact me. And other than that, I would say check me out tomorrow night on KNBR, 6 o'clock, 6 to 7. I talk Niners on the Sports Leader. Tomorrow night, JD's going to join me. Looking forward to that. And then Friday night, the great Raj from RSF 49ers will be in the house. So join me for Niners Nightly, 6 o'clock on the Leader.
And thank you to the audience. Larry, thank you. Carson Taylor asking, when is Kuminga coming back? I believe his last game was January 5th. And so he's on a 3-week... he's going to be reevaluated in 3 weeks from that date. So I believe we're not going to have an answer for another 10, 11 days. And then we find out, where he's at. So don't expect Kuminga back anytime soon, I think is the safe bet. Anything you want to add to that regarding Kuminga?
Nope.
All right. And go eat some brisket at Pig and a Pickle.
There you go. Macchiano. Look at that. Pig and a Pickle.
Good stuff. Good stuff, bro. Thank you, Chardal, giving us some love. Thank you to everybody. We're done. Larry, I love you, brother. And we'll be back at this soon. Bye-bye.